Captain America: Civil War. The first movie in the Phase 3 era of Marvel. From a 3D perspective, and perhaps even other perspectives, this Phase 3, which encompassed about 3 years of movies, was the peak of Marvel. They ironed out the 3D conversion bugs, and instead of 3D shortcuts, we get state-of-the-art presentations that seem to leave no stereo opportunities untouched. You can see small things in the background getting minute perspective attention. In lesser 3D conversions, they would be satisfied with just pushing things back and relying on big stuff in the foreground to produce a good enough illusion. But not so much here. Pause any of the busier scenes and look around with your 3D glasses on, and you'll be surprised by how much there is to look at. Surprisingly, there's not huge differences between the flat version and the 3D edition. You will come across some typical but minor oddities, like this shield being of a slightly different size for some reason, and the overall image occasionally being zoomed to make room for certain placements. You may also notice the expanded IMAX frame is only present on the 3D version. Today, that flat IMAX edition is available on Disney+, but it wasn't on Blu-ray, which leads me to wonder if at the time 3D was briefly considered the most premium edition of the movie. Nowadays, that 3D edition is such an afterthought, it may not even have the finalized CGI on it. Here, they even brighten up the 3D version a tad, which is nice to see. Peeking at the two-dimensional edition, here's an interesting little edit of getting rid of what appears to be a door that interferes with the foreground outline. I wonder if they ask permission to do something like that, or if they're just trusted with it. One thing that is done so well here is the expansion of stereo to reflect the point of interest rather than sticking to any notions of rote realism. A terrific demonstration of this aesthetic is with the Ant-Man shots, where if he's big, we see him with big, giant stereo eyes. And if he is small, the stereo eyes also shrink with him. And this 3D is so tastefully exaggerated throughout the entire movie, and the result is a consistency of excitement. Whatever we are looking at, we are getting the best possible 3D view. It's not really nuanced. I didn't feel it was integrated into the storytelling. It's simply constantly hammering away at us, but it's fun. And especially for a comic book movie, I am really only here for the arcade experience. I want it loud, and I want it now. Check out how much they move this barrel over, giving us a classic barrel out of the screen moment. If you happen to have a display that gives you options to move the eyes, sometimes labeled as 3D strength, you can adjust this to get a really nice, genuine pop-out, though I don't recommend watching the entire movie with any kind of 3D adjustment turned on. I love seeing these air warping effects in 3D. Marvel really pursued, perhaps even pioneered, the art of layered-based stereo conversion, what Variety Films calls 2.5D. This is when a production delivers a variety of shots in effects layers to the conversion team so they can be stereofied independently. So you can have these cloudy energy bolts exist in a realistic, transparent cloud funnel, and what's behind it is warped in a way consistent with the air distortion. In other conversions where they have to deal with these being permanently together, they may just blur out everything behind it because of the difficulty in cutting out such minute detail. Still, there are some crude cutouts, such as a typical 3D haircut seen in this shot, which leads me to believe that the quality of a Marvel conversion may be due to it largely being composed on green screens and having the options of effects layering at the conversion team's disposal. I wonder if I'm sitting here being impressed by what amounts to a fairly easy job. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm not keeping score. Just curious. Like this window, it really shatters right at you. It's a split second of a moment, but it's actually quite oh, look at that. Must be a CGI window. It would be safer to film. And again, the layers would make the impressive 3D moment a relatively easy conversion. Like these other broken windows, I think these are quite obviously CGI, but it still makes for an impressive sight. This, however, was not. And I wonder if this might have been a real window that they had to work around, because the reflection and the disapproving hobbit appeared to me like a flat cutout. And maybe they were. Maybe that's how they torture their prisoners, with cutouts of hobbits. This is a 2016 movie, and Marvel had only started with 3D conversions in 2014. And it really didn't take them long to figure out how to do it as well as possible. Now, this is Spider-Man's first appearance in Marvel Land. Although he was irrelevant to the plot, you could easily have cut him out and not know anything was missing. It was a fun addition. He completely steals every scene he's in. And there's some great 3D moments of the web rope extending out from him onto something he's swinging on, sometimes for very long distances. Also, the red suit just naturally stands out from everything around it. And Spider-Man has absolutely no hair when he has a suit, so he must be just the easiest thing in the world to cut out. Story-wise, this one was more like an Avengers movie rather than a Captain America installment. Everyone drops in to compete in the melee except perhaps Thor. And I wonder if that was to keep the fighting on an even playing field. No gods allowed in this match. UFC rules. Unlike the Marvel movies of today, which are mostly self-satires, this felt smart, like a Bond movie. Though I say it felt smart rather than was smart because, frankly, I really only had a vague sense of what it was all about. The action was enjoyable and easy to follow, but what exactly the nature of the conflict was, I really could not explain, even after reading the synopsis on Wikipedia. But I guess that's what conflict is like. The cause of it quickly fades into obscurity. Once it begins, the only thing that matters is winning. And as the misdeeds pile up, the only hope of atonement is to be washed away in the waters of victory. So complicated becomes black and white, your side or mine. And that much was clear. And Spider-Man was in it.